Rod Street, Chief Executive of British Champions Series and Racing for Change, on the back of news that Qipco have increased their support of British horse racing thrice, not only with an extension to the British Champions Series sponsorship, but also with long-term deals for the Sussex Stakes and the Qipco Guineas Festival, both of which run to at least 5 years. So, Rod, until 2017, some of the crown jewels of British racing appear to be safeguarded, which must delight you enormously.
Yeah, we're thrilled to bits, and I think it's a real shot in the arm for British racing. Qipco, very new entrants to the market in relative terms. They've enjoyed their experience so far. They sponsored the British Champion Series on initial 2-year deal, and they've enjoyed it so much and are so committed to wanting to get the best out of British racing that they've done a new 5-year deal, and we're quite naturally thrilled to bits.
Rob, would it be fair to say when you took up the Premiership of British Champions Series that the two biggest challenges to really make the whole enterprise swing were, one, continued sponsorship, and second, guaranteed continued consistent television coverage?
Oh, totally, absolutely. And you can't run any commercial enterprise in racing without good quality sponsorship. It's fundamental. And broadcast means everything to the sport. And we're obviously very lucky now that looking into 2013, that the Champion Series has a committed long-term sponsor that wants to work with us and make the sport more successful. And we have that consistent television coverage. So racing often beats itself up over what it isn't doing right. We're rather good at that, but sometimes we should take a step back and actually see that some things are going well. And this is, I think, a really good news story.
And Rob, what do you think specifically has been done right in order to get us into this position, given perhaps where we were 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Well, I think racing's acting more collectively, actually. I think we're all pulling together and seeing the benefit of working harder for one another. I think we've got our PR on a much better footing now, and we're making more use of our stories. I think we've been innovative around the way things within the Champion Series are done, certainly, and the way that we produce the race days and give them a bit more flair and more appeal. We've introduced things like fantasy racing games, which have been taken up, in a really big way nationally. And of course, at the very, very heart of it, we're focusing on the horse racing, and we're developing these races. The Champions Day was a big deal, and it really was a case of build it and they come. We put this new day in. We know that there was some controversy about it when it started off, but we created a record prize money day for British racing with 5 races, which are in all but name Group 1 races, and we were well supported. And I think it was just one of those things that brought lots of factions from the industry together.
Obviously, there are other British Champion Series races, most notably the Derby, of course, getting other major sponsorships. That had a 10-year sponsorship from Investec. Do you think it'll be possible for you to get the other brands within the series to fully embrace the BCS concept? Because that obviously would help again enormously, wouldn't it?
I think so, and I think we're trying to position it that we with the Qipco Champion Series are a championship brand, maybe a bit in the same way that you have an ATP Tour at tennis, but within that are lots of other big corporate names sponsoring specific events, and I think that they see that this is about racing shining a brighter light on the sport and then benefiting from it. So I hope they've seen through what we've done in the first 18 months of this, that whether you're an Investec or a Ladbrokes or a Coral or a whoever, you're actually getting more bang for your buck because we're working harder to make these iconic race days reach more people.
In your view, Rod, do you ever think where BCS would be now without Qipco? I know that's a rather negative way of looking at it, and you're a glass half full man, but it doesn't really bear thinking about in some respects, does it?
Oh no, I think we'd be working very, very hard, and I mean we did of course have committed shareholders to the Champion Series who put a lot of their own funds into this, and they were committed to making it work in the long term. So the bottom line is, had we not been able to find the right commercial partner, they would have had to have dug deeper to deliver this, but the model was based upon getting a sponsor, and we are absolutely thrilled to bits to have one, and particularly one that's really enjoying the association and is so committed to it.
It's quite an interesting dichotomy at the moment, isn't there, between the top end being bolstered and the bottom end being questioned, particularly by the horsemen. Are you a subscriber to the view that if the top end is strong and aspirational, then the bottom end will follow with experience across all forms of racing?
I think eventually, yes. I think that's true. You have to look at other sporting models to see that does permeate. I would imagine, though, at the moment with the current model, you might take some convincing of that the way it's structured, but we'll get there. And it's very early days. Racing's really been only addressing some of its problems in relatively recent times. But yes, if we get the Premier end right and we get the broadcast right and more people come and more people commit commercially, all of these things should permeate down, and like we say, it shines a big spotlight on the sport. But for it to reach the grassroots at the moment, I think that will take some time. So I wouldn't make any grand claims on that score yet, Nick.
And £10 million for Champions Day over the next 5 years. Is that a fair figure that has been estimated in the trade papers today?
It's the long-term deal for the series is in excess of 10 million. For the 5-year period. I'm comfortable with you saying that, Nick. It's a high level. It's incredibly competitive. It means we can kick off the series very well at the Guineas, and Kipco really love the Guineas Festival. They can brand it throughout the series at these iconic events like the Derby and Ascot and the Sussex Stakes sponsorship, which they also enjoy. And this big day, the finale day, we can grow the prize money there, and as we say, we're hoping during the course of this term to add another £1 million to that day, and that's really good news for racing, and to have the richest day in October at Ascot, and hopefully to get these outstanding races upgraded to Group 1 will be a real fillip for the sport.
Yeah, just getting down to the nitty-gritty of Champions Day itself, Rod, it was a really wonderful, magical day last year, and doubtless you're going to hope to replicate that in the years to come. As regards that date, October 20th, how comfortable are you now with a mid-October date, or is there still part of you that is striving for that original September goal?
Comfortable with the timing of it. I think that we've got the opportunity to build a really good European finale, and it worked very well last year. Personally, I would rather October the 20th was more around October the 11th or 12th.
Sure.
The earlier in the month, the better. But actually, to come at the end is good. It worked very well. The pattern, as we know, is really complex, and to move a race, let alone a race meeting, takes a lot of doing. But I think we're looking at October for the time to come, and Kipco are supportive of that. And I think we'll have to see over the next 6 years of the current deal and the new deal how that stands up. But having only just got it off the ground, I think it would be folly to start fiddling around with it right now.
So you'd say for the next 4 or 5 years, for the medium term, you want to give that date the best shot it can possibly have before you start jiggering it around?
Yes, and I think we should as well. And that's not to say that every year will be stellar. It's impossible that you don't get 10 magical cup finals in a row or 10 Wimbledons in a row.
Yes.
That's fantastic. But you need to create the arena for it. And I think having a day that celebrates the best and potentially always attracts the very best horses available is the right thing to do. And I think over the long term it'll prove to be a big success. How
soon do you think you'll have a day with 5 Group 1s?
As soon as we can, really. I mean, I think if these races qualify under the European Patent Committee criteria for them, we'll be pushing hard to get them upgraded as soon as possible. So we'll be looking to get support from the people in this industry, the horsemen, and indeed the BHA to make that happen. I think that's really important for the race, and there'll be a direct benefit because when they are upgraded, Kipco have committed to put more money into that prize money pot, so it's only a good thing.
Rod, there's a slightly different feel to the BHA this year with the arrival of Paul Bitar and slightly different aspirations expressed by them as well, as the idea of a body that can lead racing from the front, that can be a think tank, if you like. Are you seeing that from your standpoint at Racing for Change and BCS? Are you looking at them as an overarching body that can lead and bring people together? Is that working?
I think it works well. I mean, we're a complex group, aren't we, racing? We have horsemen, we have race courses, we have our regulator and governing body in the BHA. It's a case of working together, and I think we can find that when we pull together, we work effectively. But absolutely, BHA play a key role in that, and in many ways, you can claim they don't have vested interest. Where horsemen or race courses may indeed have vested interest in certain issues, the BHA is often the honest broker, and I think they've got a key role to play. And with our new man in tow, Paul Bitar, who I think's made a terrific first impression, there's a lot of hope for the industry. But on a day-to-day basis, we work with the BHA at every level in any case, and they're always incredibly helpful to all that we want to achieve.
And finally, Rod, does the fact that you've got this security from KIPCO financially in the medium to long term mean that you can concentrate on making the racing experience the way you want to make it? And as such, how do you think that'll manifest itself?
Oh, lots of ways. I still think there's lots more we can do to take this sport to a bigger audience. It was great that for example, we got this fantasy game off and running, which was good news, and we'd like to do much more on the marketing front. And on the race day experience, again, I still think there are lots of things we can do on the race course to make the days bigger and better. So there are lots of things about the theatre of that day that we are working on right now, and interestingly working on with Channel 4 for 2013 to make these days more notable. So we've got plenty to do. And also, as you can imagine, we don't sign these contracts lightly. There's a lot of delivery we've got to commit to KIPCO as well. So we won't be resting on our laurels, Nick.
Rod, thanks so much for talking to us, and look forward to catching up soon.
A pleasure. Thanks, Nick.